Hey everyone, welcome to Smash Trivia. I'm your host, Smash Trivia John. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram by searching Smash Trivia to follow everything happening with me. I'll be the one with the big old green head in the profile picture. So excited to get into this. This is the Gamma Analysis. Basically, in this series, I'm gonna review everything Hulk, all the movies, TV shows, and I also do random other geeky films. Occasionally, not so geeky ones too. And I also like to mix things up once in a while by not reviewing anything. Hope you enjoy Smash Trivia Presents The Gamma Analysis. I want to ask everyone listening if they can please do something for me. Please share the hell of this podcast with all your friends. If you don't, Hulk will be angry. Now that we have all that important stuff out of the way, let's smash right into this episode. Hello, my Gamma friends. Today I'm joined by Keith to review Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. Oh, this is a film I've been wanting to review for a while. It came out last year in the middle of the actor strike, so I couldn't review it then. But this is a film that um pretty easily went onto one of my favorite films of all time list. I love this film.
Oh, cowabunga, man. I'm right there with you.
Yeah. Oh, it honestly surprised me how long it took for you to actually watch this film, since I'm pretty sure you actually only watched it for the first time when I asked you to do this review, right? Or had
Yeah,
you seen it before that?
I kind of wanted to. I was glad that I hadn't seen it yet because it is one that I was excited to see. I saw the trailer for it and then immediately was like, yeah, I'm probably gonna like this movie. But when it came out in theaters, I didn't really have the money to go see that,
I
plus whatever
understand
else I
about
was
that.
probably watching. But yeah, I was glad that it kind of fell off my radar at least long enough to have you suggest it and then me go, oh, perfect. This will be not only a fresh thing for me to review, but something I'm really excited to because I was a big Turtles fan
Oh,
as a kid. So this was right up my
so,
alley.
so what did you think of it? I think of it, just general thoughts.
General thoughts. I think Jeff Rowe and Kyler Spears knocked this out of the park. It was fucking delightful, and I do not use that word delightly. So, yeah, big fan.
This film, there's just so much to love about it. So much ridiculousness. Like, I put up a tweet earlier today, and while I was rewatching the film, said, and if someone went up to you, January of last year, and said that there would be a big studio film that featured turtles getting milked and it being a kids movie, how would you react to hearing that?
Yeah,
Like that,
yeah. That
like I feel like most people would be like, "Are you high?"
I think the success of animated features, like big animated features, like Across the Spider-Verse, really have paved the way for other like animation styles especially to give it a go and then to put not only the money into a creative animation style that people haven't seen before but to put the right minds behind it to write it because
Oh
like
yeah,
I grew up with the 90s live action Ninja Turtles movies. The 1990
same.
version, that first one,
Yeah,
is my favorite. Like they made a couple sequels that were
yeah,
good, but not as good. But I was just delighted when I saw this to see future generations, younger generations, um, having a Turtles movie that was like all their own, as well
hmm
as captured what was so much fun about the
yeah.
Turtles. Period.
It
Yeah.
and something that I've heard a lot of people say, and I agree with this is one of the first times where the turtles really feel like they're teenagers, and that's
Yes.
really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, but it wasn't uncommon of the 90s to have like even just teen dramas on TV aged up. So you'd see these
Mhm.
30-year-olds playing younger teens and stuff. And it was like, why? It's like I get there's a lot of hoops to jump through when you don't have an
Mhm.
adult on set. I get that. But they need to be teens, and this did feel like a very good origin story. Same
Oh
way as
yeah,
when Tom Holland gets cast as Spider-Man. You want to see a
yeah.
Spider-Man start in high school, and he was perfect.
Oh yeah. So big thing that I loved in the film that and you're probably not gonna be surprised by this. is the fact that Mikey is a big fan of Mark Ruffalo's Hulk.
Yes. When
So
I heard that, I wrote that down. I was like, John's gonna love that.
the thing so there's both a not so deep, but also a kind of deep reason I love this is one the not so deep is Mikey has always been my favorite turtle even before this. So the fact
Mhm.
that that's the turtle who was a big fan of Hulk is like really a surprised me. I was like it's weirdly specific, but I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But then also like as I thought more about it today, I think the use of Hulk and particularly Mark Ruffalo's Hulk is important in that well one I love that they have that pointing out the fact that he's a hero. He's not just as a monster, which is something I've been bringing up throughout my whole time podcasting.
Mhm.
But the on a deep level, I think they did something really cool with this, but because they used that as, I think, allegory might be the right word for representation in film
Mhm.
and having and because as the whole point of wanting representation in film is to have people that we can that look like us that can inspire us and for the turtles that would be a Mark Ruffalo's Hulk because he has green skin and obviously a but also the particularly them using it in Mark Ruffalo's Hulk and not just saying Hulk
Mhm.
I think is being done as a point to or it's the difference between characters who are or a difference between portraying someone who's a person of color other in a negative light versus in a positive light. I of why I representation, good representation is important. And like you compare Mark Ruffalo's Hulk to previous versions of Hulk on screen, where it's much clearer that this is a hero, not just a monster. Versus it's not always clear in some of the previous versions, and you can compare that to having a say a black character on screen who is being portrayed as a thug
Mhm.
versus Black Panther being inspiring.
Yeah. No, it's true. Well, there's two sides to every coin, right? And there are marginalized groups out there that get pit as the villains, even if we're not going with race, but like just where you're from, like Russia, for example.
Mhm.
As soon as the Cold War hit with America, they were like the bad guys in every movie. They were like every action movie, it was the
Uh,
Russians. There are good people from Russia. There
yeah.
are many good people, and they are probably marginalized themselves in Russia because of the way they act, the way they feel,
Mhm.
the people they love, whatever. It's there are two sides to every group or ethnicity or whatever. There's good people, there's bad people. It's more about good and
Mhm.
bad and what your ideas of good and bad are than just generalizations cast across an entire group. It's
Yeah.
crazy to think. You bring up the idea of representation in this movie. I
Mhm.
One of my favorite things in this movie was April O'Neil.
Mhm.
Not only do I love the voice act, and I know that they made, I think it was in the previous to this one series, they had April O'Neil as a black person, which is fantastic. And I didn't
Mhm.
even know that until doing a bit of research before seeing this one. But not only do I love the voice actor that they got, um, Io, I think it's Idebury. Um, she's fantastic in The Bear. She's great in this one sketch on I
Oh
Think
yeah.
You Should Leave with Tim Robinson. It's really funny. She's great in everything I've seen her do. But not only that, but we needed a bit of an eye wash after the Michael Bay movies came out because Megan Fox playing April O'Neil. I get that most news anchors are, conventionally attractive women, um, but no offense to her, but the modern beauty standards and putting that out into the world, I was just really impressed with the fact that they did not do the typical body type that you would see on a
Look,
female in a movie. Like I was like, she looks like a
and
cool fucking person that the turtles would hang
and
with.
to be
I'm not gonna
honest,
lie.
I think it's like really weird the people who had a problem with it
Did
because
people? I wondered because I didn't
yes,
look that
there
up.
were a lot of people who were mad about the about both them having her be black and having her not be attractive in their eyes,
In
which
their eyes, exactly.
I find it so weird and gross because not just from the fact that they're obviously being racist, but also from the fact
The
that
body shame side of things.
this is a teenager. This is a child.
Yeah,
And you
yeah,
care
yeah.
about how attractive she is. That's weird.
Yeah. And if you're gonna, yeah, I was so glad to hear that she was also in high school, like they would be as well. That was really smart. Excuse me. Did you pick up that burp?
I didn't hear anything.
Cool. Then it didn't happen.
Mhm.
It's just, yeah, the typical body standards of women in general have been so cookie cutter a specific way, and this is like way late as far as seeing a character like April O'Neil, who is normally conventionally much thinner, being portrayed as a very common normal sized person. It's just nice to see that.
Yeah.
But I'll get off my soapbox on that. I loved April O'Neil's character. She was so funny in this, and normally a person who makes a movie about the turtles doesn't give a shit about April as much as this, and it's just nice because
Oh yeah.
the the woman who
I
played April O'Neil in the 90s live action movies, she was charismatic, she was very endearing, she was very kind and likable, but this actually felt like someone who would want to hang out with the turtles afterwards.
mhm. Oh yeah. The and saying that another like thing that I really appreciate about this film that is or I think another or deep thing that I think I've talked about a lot of times how so they make this point about how if you actually get to know the turtles and or else you don't just glance at them once and see them as bad like there's some like then a lot of chances are that for most people your worldview on it will change and you will become less bigoted and which is I think a really important and cool point for them to make and because it's how exactly how I feel of if you're just willing to sit down and talk to one of these people who are different than you, it will change your entire view on life and you won't and though that's not always the case, at least there are definitely some
Mhm.
people who are just completely evil, but I do think I think there are a lot of people who it's simply they haven't ever had a chance to or they haven't been willing to try and get to know these people who are different than them and from them. So, if they just simply gave that chance it would make them see these aren't bad things and being different. It's their differences are beautiful, and I think that's a
Yeah,
very important thing.
I think that it's incredibly easy to create these walls and put up these walls and create these bubbles socially or parasocially these days where we just hear our own opinions in a feedback loop. We understand our own
Mhm.
experiences in a feedback loop. It's interesting the amount of videos I've seen recently of what would be considered trad femmes, traditional feminists, which I don't think would consider themselves most feminists would consider them feminist at all, because they don't think of the experiences of women of every disability, every body type, every race, everything. It's just amazing to me the way people can get so closed off when they don't consider that, oh shit, it's not just everyone else isn't just a clone of me. There's other experiences out there.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
and the simple fact that you have a cast of turtles, that half of them were voiced by white actors, the other half were voiced by black actors. What was fun about it was I knew they did that because I think I saw like an interview, very like a just probably on the IMDb page of the four actors doing the voices, and I was trying to guess at the beginning of this movie. I'll call myself guilty for that. I was trying to guess which ones they had cast. By halfway through the movie, I did not know. I fucked it up. I was like, my guess is wrong. Actually, it's these two and these two, not these two and these two. It was just funny to me that it was so seamless and silly, and yet that representation also
Mhm.
is cool and important, even with characters like the turtles that are green. They're not
Yep.
white and black. So it's just nice to see that they were doing that, and the liberties that they took with the turtles' personalities in themselves. Like, I didn't grow up with the smart Donatello. I grew up with the sarcastic smartass Donatello, and that was the one voiced by Corey Feldman in the 90s live action movies.
Mhm.
So getting the nerdy Donatello back, and I've seen him before, and I like the kind of book smart computer whiz Donatello. Um, Having him be the younger one, like he sounded the youngest, and Mikey actually sounded a lot more laid back than usual. He wasn't like a surfer dude like in the Michael Bay movies. He was cool, which he was always the cool one, but he's
Mhm.
usually the younger brother, kind of
Oh,
like immature one. And he didn't
yeah.
sound so immature in this. He sounded more so equal playing field with the other three. It was the most nuanced I think that they'd done them in a while,
Oh
which
yeah.
was really cool.
And
Yeah.
they all really do feel like actual brothers,
Hmm.
which is cool. All they have their relationship with Master Splitter really does feel like a real parent child relationship.
Yep. Super overprotective. You could apply that same story, the relationship with Jackie Chan's Splinter, which I love that it was Jackie Chan. The second
Mhm.
I heard his
Oh
voice, I was
yeah.
like, "Oh my god, they got Jackie. This is perfect." Because for a long time I was thinking like, "Oh my god, Jackie Chan is getting so old. I feel terrible because most of his career is based so much on his athleticism and his ability to take a punch and to do a flip and all this stuff, but he seamlessly got into our hearts as one of the most likable, like comedic,
Mhm.
hilarious guys. So I was just so happy that it was he was playing Splinter. But that storyline of Splinter being overprotective of his sons because of how scary the world is, like that could be applied to anybody. That has nothing to do
Mhm.
with being a rat and a bunch of turtles. You know what I mean? Like it's I see it all the time. I see it in the way my parents treated me. I see it in the way my wife's
Yeah.
parents treat her. And it's like you're never prepared enough for the world, and then you have to realize, oh, your kids need to do what you did, which was deal with the world yourself.
Mhm. And we also there are many parents and like from minority groups that they dealt with a lot of hate, so they're trying
Mm.
to protect their kids from that hate, and you see exactly that with Master Splinter.
Yeah, 100%. I
Oh,
was blown away by the casting of this, and also just it was just good storytelling.
oh
They
yeah.
did a great job.
You know, I it's when I was younger, I loved watching Seth Rogen comedies. Is not all of them hit the same
No,
now as I'm an adult,
I agree.
but
Same.
I think he's really shown his true talent with a lot of with a lot of these animated things he's done doing now, like
Hmm.
this and Invincible, and shows how he is such a great storyteller, and he's so much more than just the funny guy that people think of him as.
No, the guy has so many fingers and so many pies in the sense that like he's a Swiss Army knife of skills, and he doesn't stick with one thing too long. And if he sees that one thing isn't going the way he wants to, he switches gears. He goes, okay, I'm gonna write, or I'm gonna produce, or I'm
Mhm.
gonna direct. Like he switches gears enough that he's constantly evolving. Like a Rolling Stone gathers no moss, and that guy is doing it right. Huge respect for the way he's changed over the years. And
Oh
it's like
yeah, and
you don't see that very often. People usually get set in their ways. They make the big money, they have their big break, and
mhm.
they just think that's the way to ride it for the rest of their career.
Yeah, and like I really think it's so nice how he's of the opinion of like you don't like it's okay that some things haven't aged well with comedy, and we don't need to try and push for that old style comedy
Hmm.
comedy just to be assholes.
Yeah.
He's like he adapted with the times, and he was willing to be like, yeah, no, I'm not gonna work with James Franco anymore after I found out that he's a shitty person. Like
Yeah.
that's like I really appreciate that so much about the out Seth Rogen.
Yeah,
Um,
you can't let someone, like, even if you're riding the coattails 1 second and then you find out that person is doing something that is morally against what you stand for, you gotta know how to shift. And I'm
oh
sure
yeah,
that it's taken a toll on their friendship and whatever, but
yeah,
rightly so, he has to look out for himself. He has to look out for his
oh yeah,
family, the
and
people who matter most to him. Yeah.
it shows a lot of integrity to me that
Hmm.
he's willing to be like, yeah, no, I'm not going to keep working with this guy. I'm not going to keep doing a comedy that is not with the times.
Yeah.
He's not gonna be. He doesn't complain about people being too sensitive or people being offended. And he just like, yeah, no, I'm just not gonna try and insult people with my comedy.
Exactly. It drives me nuts as a millennial in 2024, to see, and it was, it started years ago, but there'd be these posts on social media that would say, and I probably even brought it up before on this podcast, that millennials are offended by Seinfeld, or millennials are offended by this thing. It's like, no, we grew up with Seinfeld. We grew up seeing that comedy, seeing our parents laugh at that comedy, and thinking that that was comedy. But we also grew up to realize there was more than that.
Hmm.
We grew up realizing that, oh,
And
comedy from 30 years ago is different than now, and you take
yeah,
everything with a grain of salt. If you don't take
and
things with a grain of salt, to me now, watching an old movie, it's like a science project. You sit there watching
mm,
and going, okay, we wouldn't make
and
that joke today, but holy shit, did people find that funny back then? It's
mhm.
very interesting. But yeah,
Yeah,
Seth
and
Rogen should not let himself do that.
I think I think sign that a lot of people who grew up on these things does to understand when I go and watch one of these films that I haven't ever seen before, and then I make it clear that I'm not that I did not enjoy watching
Condone.
that
Yeah, yeah.
because of the humor that was in it.
Mhm.
Like I've had times before where people who did grow up with it will get angry at me. I'm like, you're just watching this with velvet glasses because or
Yeah,
rose-colored glasses because
yeah,
you
yeah.
grew up on it. I didn't. So I see the fact that not all of this ages well, and
Yeah.
it's okay to mention the fact that it doesn't age well.
Yeah, and people my age should also do the same, and meet you halfway, in the sense that if we're watching something older and we know, oh, this wouldn't be made today, It's like there's a reason. There's a reason that they wouldn't make
Mm-hmm.
that joke today. So understand that what made you laugh as a teen, it's okay to grow. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah, like
For any millennials listening, if you're in your mid 30s, if
yeah.
you don't find a joke funny from an Adam Sandler movie in 1997 and you're like butthurt about that, just know that you've done the right thing. It's okay to grow as a person and not
Mhm.
find the same things
Yeah.
funny that you found funny when you were 15. That's a good thing. That's a
You
great
know,
thing.
so reminds me of with you talking about how we grow and we change and we see we enjoy different things. It reminds me particularly of one of Seth Rogen's previous comedies. It's only 10 years old actually at this point, but
Oh, they change fast. The
I
age of the internet,
so
comedy tastes change quick.
when it first came out, I absolutely loved This Is the End.
Oh yeah.
When I watched it a few years ago, there's only one scene in it that I laughed at. The rest of it was like, oh God, this is terrible.
Which one?
The one scene that I still can laugh at is the exorcism of Jonah Hill in it. That's the
Yes.
one thing and I would able to still laugh at.
Yeah.
And also you look back on that and there's a good bit of actors that I do not enjoy seeing anymore.
Yeah.
Like you have James as Franco. Also, even though as I said, I laughed at the one scene with Jonah Hill. I don't enjoy seeing Jonah Hill anymore after finding out how awful he is.
Yeah. Yeah. I do remember
And
the most recent thing with him and his like boundaries with the ex-girlfriend or whatever. It's
and
yeah,
I
that's
think I think
I never looked into it enough recently to be
I
honest.
think it makes
But
it even harder with a film like that to separate them how they are in real life
mhm,
because
mhm.
they're playing themselves in the film and
Yeah, true.
it and when you watch that knowing the things that they've done, you really
Mhm.
feel like it's not supposed to be a heightened asshole version of themselves. You feel like it's literally just themselves.
Yeah, it's tough to, especially in the moment of when that movie came out, if you're gonna play yourself, that is the risk that they took by
Hmm.
playing themselves. It's not a smart move if you're trying to make like a rated R comedy, shock jock type comedy.
Yeah.
And comedy ebbs and flows, and the way that I've
Hmm.
seen comedy go for at least the last probably 30, it's probably further than that, but 30 years, you see comedy get cleaner and more cerebral, more intelligent, and then take a huge, like almost like a need for shock value, and then back up again and be a little bit cleaner because they're tired of the shock stuff. The new things that are shocking are no longer shocking because you've
Hmm.
heard the joke, you've heard it. Okay, the
I
same
think.
person making the same joke sucks. You need to do another clean version. So it goes up and down until
Mhm.
we get to here. It'll continue like that. It'll
Oh yeah.
keep being cyclical. But
I think.
yeah, unfortunately, you know what's a strange movie that Seth Rogen uh, has a big part in that is actually way funnier now than when it came out, and it's like I'm
Oh,
waiting for the day that it's no longer funny, but I'm worried about it. But it's so funny now.
I don't know.
The Christmas comedy, The Night Before.
Oh,
That
I
is a
love that movie.
beautiful movie. It's so much better than it was the year it came out. It was before its time, and that is one of the few. Because
Mm.
when I met my wife, she's quite a few years younger than me, and when I met her, she did not like Seth Rogen. She was like, I hate that guy. He's so annoying. His stuff is not funny. And then that movie came out, and we
Mhm.
watched it together, and she was like chuckling. She was kind of surprised that she was chuckling. We've watched it every Christmas since. It is so
Oh,
funny to us, but it's clever. It's cerebral. It shows more
mhm.
of what he does now than what he did 20, 15 years
Oh
ago.
yeah, definitely.
Big time. Yeah.
Uh,
Sorry, that was a long rant.
that's all right. No, oh, it's a great conversation. And
Turtles.
yeah, I really enjoyed for the climax of this film. I thought it was fun and I appreciate how they had the citizens of New York helping out to defeat the villain.
Did it not remind you of Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man a little bit?
I didn't think of that, but yeah, I can see that.
Just like, hey, that's Spider-Man, that's our city. And they throw cans at the people or whatever.
like
The
I would,
bad guys.
I would love if like we, if though I don't think we would ever get this because it's because with how the MCU is going, they don't want to have smaller stakes Avengers films, but I would love to have like a have an Avengers film where the Avengers are having trouble against the threat and the people of the city come and try and help them. I think that would be so much
Yeah.
fun to see
Well,
it
the
feels very
big
different.
theme that they're fighting there, it's the whole theme of the movie, and similar to Spider-Man in the sense that the Daily Bugle and J. Jonah Jameson is always trying to make him look like the villain, is acceptance, right?
Mhm.
So the turtles are mutants, they're monsters, they're freaks, and then acceptance becomes the big tearjerker moment at the end where you see the city backing them. So the Avengers, on the other hand, I don't know if that's ever been their issue, because in the MCU, the Avengers are, other than maybe after the outcome of Age of Ultron, they were talking about
Mhm.
the Sokovia Accords.
Yeah. Sokovian Accords, I think is what.
Yeah. So like that was all about, okay, well, we accept them as heroes, but they're also costing lives. They're also, they gotta be more
Yeah.
reined in a bit. But it was never about like, oh, they're not heroes. Like half the time they know who they
Oh yeah.
are in the
I'm
MCU. So
yeah. It's I don't even mean it as like trying to have the heroes need acceptance. I just think it would be cool to see a instead of just the as the citizens running away, sometimes I'm
yeah,
seeing in the MCU having that they're just like, I'm gonna help you too.
yeah. No, it's true. And to think that, like, if you think of Avengers 1, the first, and see like how much of a beating others saw Captain America take, for example. And they're like, he's just like me. And he's jumping on grenades, and he's, trying to stop the aliens, and let's help him out. Like, that's, yeah. The most we saw was him bossing around some cops and them actually taking
Mhm.
him seriously. And that was our moment of the citizens realizing that, oh shit, these aliens are out of our league, but we are going to listen to these heroes that we've never seen before because they seem to be okay with fighting these aliens. So yeah, I see the community drive there, but yeah, they were
Oh yeah.
the beautiful tearjerker moment for me in this, and it did make me really well up, was the fact that they thought they were monsters because of what their dad had experienced and what Jackie Chan's Splinter had
Hmm.
put in their heads, and that's fair. He had every reason to
Hmm.
feel that way. He even tried to take them out into the public, when they were just tiny little turtles, tiny little babies, and was beaten and chased away from Times Square or whatever. I
Oh
think it
yeah.
was Times Square.
It's
Yeah.
no, it is really saddening that, but it just makes it all the better when we have the have Splinter be like, no, I'm not. I was wrong. You guys should be would be
Yeah, that was a
out.
good moment.
The oh yeah.
Yeah, what did he
Um.
say in that moment? He was like, what I need to do is you guys want to be heroes, and I need to support that and make sure that the world sees you as that. So we got to stop that monster. We got to stop that big thing.
Oh
That was
yeah.
awesome. Superfly also. The second Superfly, I saw that he was played by Ice Cube, and that he was like, the moment that they met him, I was like, he's gonna bring him under his wing. He's gonna be like this. Hey, mutants are cool. You should side with me. And I was like, I was so glad they explored that, even for just like 20 minutes. It was awesome.
Oh yeah, it's great. I love like all of the different mutant characters. There's Bebop and Rocksteady. Being
Yeah.
played. I both be them being played by, I think it was Seth Rogen and John Cena. Where
Yeah.
that was great. Um
That was a star-studded bunch of villains in general. It was Paul Rudd. It was
yeah.
Rose Byrne.
The,
Hannibal Buress, I think, plays one of them. Yeah, like It was
and my favorite of them was definitely Paul Rudd as Mondo
Mondo
Gecko.
Gecko. Yeah.
And it's weird. He feels like it's weird, but also kind of fitting the fact that this he does feel like he's a teenager, even though it's Paul Rudd.
Of
And
course. Paul Rudd never
yeah, he
ages.
never ages. And did you see did you notice the funny joke with in the credits with Paul Rudd?
No, no. What was that?
Um, Paul Rudd insisted in his contract that they have it say introducing Paul Rudd.
I like that. I did not see that. That's awesome.
Oh yeah, it's great.
The
Um,
like the idea too, like that, okay, you're a mutant, we're mutants, and you should join our gang
hmm.
was very fitting of like what oppression and hate from a society could force you into as well. And I know I'm not anywhere close to have ever having joined a gang myself, but if you're from the areas that are out there in the cities, major cities that push people into crime and push people just because they'd meet a bunch of friends, they'd have a close-knit family, they'd have so much acceptance, and then that just unfortunately leads them to the bad side, the
Mhm.
the side that's committing crimes and making shit worse. It is, they don't deal with that very often in movies, especially geared towards
Oh
kids,
yeah.
that could teach them that, like, hey, sometimes as accepting as this group seems, there's a lot to be said. And you know what, we're also going to point out to you that the other members that were already of this
Mhm.
gang are not as interested in being in that gang if they could be told that they themselves could be good and could be heroes. And it was a very heartwarming message, I thought.
Uh, the really it with how much like deep stuff is in this film and how much obviously I love this film. It really saddens me that this film did not not get nominated for best animated picture. Like I feel like it fit right in there. Like there's one film particularly that in there that I feel like it could have easily taken the place of, and people will have been a lot more happy with since even though I haven't actually seen this film, from everything I've heard, most people aren't big fans of it, which is Elemental.
Oh yeah, I still haven't seen it myself. Like I
Like
feel
I've
like
heard a lot of people be like, "That's not great." So it's weird to me
it's just
that
so cookie
that they
cutter
could have,
Pixar. It didn't look great at all from the trailer. I was like,
yeah,
meh.
like it's just weird to me. Like I you have this that basically everyone that's watched it said it's really good, and like I feel like it would have been very fitting and great to for it to get that acknowledgement. It obviously would not have won the on Best Picture because we have Across the Spider-Verse there,
Yeah.
but it was I think it would have deserved a spot.
I think that the strike really fucked this movie similarly to the way that it fucked the Marvels. Like,
Mhm.
people are seeing it on streaming services way after and not really approaching it with the same excitement that they would have if it was promoted correctly, if the cast could have gotten out in front of it and promoted it the way that
Oh
was planned.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the only thing to really bring it down, because the hate, again, for stupid things like making April O'Neil black. Like, she was black in the last thing.
Mhm.
Like
I
the
mean,
last
well,
cartoon, I'm pretty sure she was a black woman. Like, it's silly things like
it's
that that people get up in arms about over the internet, and it is the squeaky wheels that get the grease. It is the very loud few, not the
mhm.
majority of people that would have had a problem with that.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, like they cast her perfectly. She feels it was exactly like what I would want for April. Well,
Oh,
I
she
do.
was hilarious. Yeah.
I hope hope if we get a sequel to this, which I'm pretty sure there's already been a sequel, both a sequel film announced and there's a sequel show that's
Series.
gonna be
I heard about the
on
show.
Paramount Plus, I believe.
Yeah.
If but I hope in a sequel movie we get to see Casey Jones owns.
Mhm.
I wonder who they would cast as him. There are
Well,
probably a lot of great actors that would for him, and
it's a funny trope that I've seen happen ever since back in when they came out with Batman Begins. You don't do the origin story or the first outing of a series with the notable characters or villains. You wait, you leave them in the wings, and you say, okay, at least if this does okay, we've got a big thing to surprise people with later. And so the same thing is the way this movie ended with Shredder
oh
being
yeah,
the obvious villain to choose. The
I'm
same
just
thing they're doing with Casey Jones.
I do really hope though with Shredder that they save him for the sequel movie and don't make him be the villain for the sequel show
I agree.
on Paramount Plus because I just feel like he deserves that theatrical whole thing
Yeah.
and um like but I also at the same time part of me is like how can they make sense of him not showing up until the sequel movie since it seems like it's right after the events of this film that he's come to New York.
Well, they got a lot of ways to play with time, I'd say, and if Shredder has to build himself up to be the villain and maybe show him preparing in some way during the TV series, that wouldn't surprise me. Like there is such an untapped similar with Batman. I feel like Marvel's starting to get to the point where they're now dealing with like C-list and D-list villains. But with Batman and with Ninja Turtles, there is a plethora of choices in the comic books that could be brought
Oh
to the
yeah.
screen. The fact that Superfly and that group of misfits was, and the fact that Bebop and Rocksteady were part of that group of misfits, and to show them, kind of being part of a bigger thing. There are comics upon comics, decades of stuff that you could pull from.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
that could be featured. It pisses me off when I see this new Batman movie's coming out and Joker's going to be in it. I'm like, please stop showing Joker. And I
Uh,
think it was something I saw like the Batman 2 is not going to feature Clayface anymore or something. Maybe it could have been bullshit, but I think it was on Instagram anyways. But I was so excited at the idea of a live action Clayface. They've never done Clayface before. And then I think something
I
said it
feel
was going to
like
be
he's
Scarecrow
gonna
again. I'm like, enough with the Scarecrow. We don't need Scarecrow again. We
I
just had that.
feel like Clayface will be a really hard one for that Batman franchise because he's because I
Super
think
fantastical in a very
yeah
grounded
he's
Batman movie. Yeah, I
yeah
agree.
he is one character who just like with Joker, though a lot of people will disagree with me, making him grounded and not ridiculous is a terrible choice.
It would
I
have to
don't
be
think it can.
so creepy and so scary that that's the only way to me to make him grounded is to make the movie like a horror film.
Maybe,
Like,
but maybe,
ugh,
but you also have this issue, particularly with Clayface. You don't have with Riddler or Joker or Penguin, which is that this is a power.
yeah.
They have and they it does not feel like there are superpowers that exist in the world of the first Batman film, or the
I
first
see it.
the Batman film, and and even if you make it be horror or with Clayface, you still have to have him changing his shape. You still have to have him like in be able to flatten himself out if he wants into just a goop or something. Which just I don't know how you can fit that into this world.
Have you ever seen John Carpenter's The Thing?
No, I have not.
I would highly recommend that because if they got someone who was a huge fan of that movie and a huge fan of that kind of form of practical effects and body horror,
Mhm.
and if they had them working on the special effects of Clayface, I think they could make Clayface not only terrifying but very not. I wouldn't say believable because I mean, a guy getting in a Batman suit and fighting crime, period, is not believable. But Batman does live in the same universe as these spectacular, crazy heroes, as Superman, Hawk Woman, all these characters.
Well, he should.
So, exactly. And then the fact that he's being compartmentalized off to the side, even though James Gunn is now in charge of the DCU, it's like, okay, we're still, so this other Batman series is going to continue. Does that mean that we only get the grounded crime bosses that wear a mask and use a gun, or can we see something fantastical?
So
I think if it was gross and scary enough, I think that it would be.
I think
You wouldn't see it in the James Gunn one. They wouldn't be able to do it.
They what he said is that the Batman series that's going from with Matt Reeves is going to who continue as its own thing, its own separate universe. I don't think there's supposed to be any other heroes that exist in it, and
that's fine.
But he also has as well a Batman that he's going to be doing in his universe with the Brave and the Bold film.
Which is, it's fine. I mean, there's so many versions. Like, I'm staring at a Batman comic right now. It's on my little shelf here, and it is nothing like any other Batman comic in the many Batman I think universes out there. He's such a huge deal that he can both be in two different worlds. I'm happy to see it. But yeah, it would be more fun to me to see the ones that, especially the ones that were invented because of the animated series from the 90s, to see that in this Matt Reeves verse, because that shit feels like the dark detective tone of the animated series.
Now, something that I'm definitely in the minority with, but I honestly feel like the Nolan Batman films permanently damage the view of the character for fans and this and Batman's universe of characters, because before that it wasn't this thing where we have to try and make it darker every time.
I think I agree with you. Continue. Sorry.
It's like how I view Batman with shows that I grew up with. Even though I didn't watch watch Batman the animated series, I've seen clips from it. Even though he's dark, Batman's dark, and like I would honestly say he's in over the top dark, not not
campy. It's campy.
Yeah, he's not. It's not some serious, realistic thing. You have him being over the top, dark, arc, and then you have his villains all just being ridiculous. That's and that is how a lot of older Batman comics were. Sure, there were some that weren't like that. Things like the Batman Returns by George Miller, I think was something like that. But or Mark Miller. Sure, there were some
Frank
that
Miller,
were
yeah, I know
Frank Miller.
Yeah.
Sure, there were some that were really dark, but a majority, I think, of older Batman comics and films before the or the Nolan trilogy, and as well, but the animated show, they weren't just super serious. You had and but ever since those Nolan films, fans seem to think that that Batman and all characters around him must be super serious, and and they should be treated as being extremely realistic. And I'm like, no, that doesn't.
Yeah.
Why would you think that?
Yeah.
I don't.
It's fun to me a jumping off point, but sorry, go ahead.
I hated with the Matt Reeves Batman that they changed how and Riddler from his classic goofy riddles to he's just an incel. I hated that. That's awful in my opinion.
Fair. No, that's fair. It's I feel like Batman's one of the few characters that I am excited by the idea that there are going to be multiple versions of him at the
Mhm.
same time. I don't want that with Spider-Man. I'm happy with Spider-Man. Tom Holland Spider-Man No Way Home was one of my favorite things he's ever been featured in. And they got it right in so many ways. The world weighs on his shoulders, but he can be fighting Sandmen. He can be fighting Electric Men. He can be. The craziness of his world is great, well
Mhm.
captured by that. But Batman can be featured in several different ways. That
Oh yeah.
same animated series led to the Justice League animated series, which
Mhm.
he was the most grounded. He could be the voice of us watching, while these insane things were happening around him. People with super speed, people from alien races,
Mhm.
all happening around him, and he's there with the right tool for the job. And he was dark, and he was sarcastic, and it was really fun
Mhm.
um, to see different portrayals of this character. For some reason, I'm fine with multiples happening at once, but the only reason why the Batman animated series is so popular was so popular was because there was two Tim Burton Batman movies that were off the walls, silly, gothic, funny, but
Mhm.
also very dark and grounded. So they
Yeah.
they made this wonderful
No.
cartoon series that had crazy villains that were also very just in their I
Mhm.
guess in their motives very grounded. And Clayface was one of them. The Riddler was fantastic in that series, and he's nothing like the incel from the Matt Reeves comic, the Matt Reeves movie. I agree. I was not blown away by the way the villains were portrayed in that
Like,
movie. I wasn't blown away by that movie in general, but you're right. The Christopher Nolan trilogy made a lot of people think that that was the only way you can do Batman. And the nice thing about Batman is he's been around
like,
for so long. There's not a lot of wrong ways to do Batman. There's many right ways, which is nice.
with the Nolan trilogy, I love of the Joker in that, but I think that destroyed the fans' view of the Joker and
I
how
love the way that the
studios.
Joker's done in Harley Quinn the cartoon series.
Yes,
It's so funny.
yes, the Joker that's in the Harley Quinn show is exactly how I want on Joker. I like more than I would want any other version of Joker in live action. I want a Joker that feels exactly like the one in the Harley Quinn show, in live action. Like he feels exactly like what I want out of Joker. He's over the top. He's willing to put his face on a building like for his
Yeah.
hideout. I want to see that in live action. Him being willing to create a giant missile that has his face on it
Yes.
to
Yeah.
like
Branding
and
is very important.
yes, I think that's
What did you think of the Joaquin Phoenix Joker?
I I liked it as a separate thing, but it also falls onto this thing of them trying to make a Joker darker and more realistic, and it's like I just want to be able to laugh at Joker. I want
I,
him to be a truly funny comedian. Um, and I actually feel like there's a possibility that we could be getting something like that with the Joker too. Instead, because I kind of feel like I what's probably going through Matt Reeves' his mind for Joker 2 is
Matt Reeves or Todd
or
Phillips?
not yeah, Todd Phillips is the first Joker film was already an amazing thing. Did not need a sequel, but they asked him to do a sequel. So I would if I were him, and I feel like this is possibly what he's doing is I'm going to instead make it feel the exact opposite of how the first one felt. Have it be off the wall, ridiculous as hell, and like you're why else would it be there be musical elements to it?
Hmm. Hmm.
The and have that all of his jokes are now funny and unlike with the
Hmm.
first one, and have it that when you laugh at his jokes it'll be both they are funny but also he's killing people and you're
Yeah.
able and it causes you to be ask yourself, am I okay that I think this is
Yeah.
funny?
Well, Yeah,
Like
the
it's
theme of the first one was so much about mental health being treated
oh yeah,
or
like
not treated, and how it
I
was untreated, and what
mhm.
happens when that happens. And it's
Oh,
crazy to think that the sequel will be him leaning even further into, oh, I'm not going to treat my mental
I
health.
think
I'm
and
going to let it rule me and
And I kind of think
decide.
that there's actually evidence for this being I mean what they would what Todd Phillips would want to go with for it as
Mhm,
so with the first film there's
mhm.
one scene that people found genuinely funny, and it's when he goes completely off the rails and he kills
Robert De Niro.
Murray, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think it's a perfect way to have it be saying that when he has accepted who he is a being this insane person, he's actually funny. Before that, when he was being more restrained, he wasn't funny.
Yeah.
I think I think that could be where they're going with it, and just expanding from that how that one scene in the first film made people react.
I think that's a very astute observation, and I think you're onto something because the theme that I was getting from, and so many people would complain about that first Joker movie in the sense that it was like, oh, this is going to make so many men feel validated in the fact that they think the world is about them, and the we live in a society that has turned me into this thing, and it's like at the same time it's not telling you that this is a good way to go with your
Oh
life
no,
at
no,
all. It's a
definitely not.
cautionary tale. It's a cautionary
Uh,
tale. But you know what? Okay. The argument between how Batman is going to be done in the next 10 years and how the MCU has been done and will continue. I personally am in love with the idea that the MCU will continue to try to figure out what everybody wants and try to do that. And the DCU, or whatever, the whole DC products that come forth.
mhm,
It doesn't have to be DCU because it's just going to be one thing, right? The DC products that we get and media that we get is going to be a big variety of things and show that these characters are versatile. They've been written by different people, they've been drawn by different people. So why shouldn't they be portrayed by different people in the
mhm,
same year or 10 years? So I am stoked at the idea that they're going to probably do Batman in 5 different ways in the next 10 years. And we're going to get further focus on the MCU's side of doing their characters the way everybody would like them to be done. So these two competing things, because the DC, in the way that they've been doing everything, we got to connect all the stories, we got to do what Marvel's doing, we got to make it all the same story, isn't working. They don't know how to make it
mhm.
work because their characters are too different. So having multiple things going on is their plan. That's a plan that will work for them, that won't work for Marvel, because Marvel was so good in the comic books connecting everyone. And even though we have a Justice League that does connect a bunch of heroes, those heroes are ridiculously different, and they
Mm,
deserve their own tones and they deserve their own projects.
yeah. Was he a characters making fun of Batman for how over the top
Yes.
serious he is? Like have just like with the Justice League animated series, have there be like scenes where the Flash is trying to mimic Batman while they're all hanging out together on the tower.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the reason why the Harlequin series, the cartoon, did so well at the time when it came out was because of Christopher Nolan and is it Matt Reeves? Everybody doing Batman so serious. And it's like, do you not remember the years when Adam West was getting his fucking shark
Hmm.
repellent out? Like, Batman is fun to joke about. You're allowed to
Hmm.
joke about him. So like you need the
Look at how
suspension breakers
look at
sometimes.
how ridiculous that Hulk and Batman crossover comic was.
Oh, that was so
And
fun.
I feel like like the tone of that was how a lot of Batman comics were at that time.
Mhm.
And that's the kind of feel that I want out of Batman stuff.
The cartoon Brave and the Bold.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh
Batman.
yeah. I
That
love
was
the Brave and the
popular
Bold
because of that.
cartoon.
Yeah.
It's yeah.
It teased and joked and poked at the idea that Batman was a humorless character with
Mhm.
nothing but justice on his mind, and that's
Exactly.
brilliant. That's really fun.
Is there any last things we should talk about with Team These Mutant Ninja Turtles Mayhem before we end this off? Because we should be ending this off soon. We've been going for a little while.
The animation was incredible. The story was incredible. The voice acting was great. I didn't even mind the fact that Mikey wasn't the same Mikey that, like, all the rest of the characters were what I expected. Aside from Mikey and a little bit of Leo, I loved that Leonardo was not just being played for the straight man, the serious person. He wasn't just he was in love with April, which is normally it's a thing that they do with Mikey, him having a crush on her, but it was entirely about Leo having a crush on the noble journalist who wanted to do the right thing, just like him.
I mean, I'm pretty sure
And it
all of
was
them had
so
a crush on her.
Oh, sure, but Leo, he was so much funnier in this than I've ever seen Leo be, because he brings everything back to seriousness. And the fact that they're like, man, you sounded like a real leader for a second there, and he was just like, oh my god, did I? Thank God, I really wanted to be a leader. Like it was cool to see Leo be funny.
It was great when they were like, oh, they were on the phone with Owen with her. They were like, oh, it's a date. They're like, no, don't just say that. And as he hangs up the phone, he's like, who's got Riz now? Like,
yeah, they had a lot of good
such a
laughs.
teenager thing to say. And
Yeah.
even him, who's supposed to be who has been more serious in the past, even him was able to make jokes like that. It's great.
What
No,
did you think of the bacon, egg, and cheese part?
I don't remember that part.
They're all there's a huge part where they're all just repeatedly saying bacon, egg, and cheese, bacon, egg, and cheese. It's so
Oh,
it just goes off. You could tell it was
I-
like an improvised part. It was very funny.
mhm.
And Katie we both of us were laughing on the couch about it. So
Hey,
like she was kind of half watching, but damn, that was
last
great.
thing I really want to bring up that I loved is all the music in this. It was
Mm-hmm.
all done really well. Like
Pretty sure two of those songs were from Knocked Up. Like they've been featured in
I want to
previous Seth
try.
Rogen movies.
What?
His soundtracks are seriously dope. Yeah.
One of them, it really surprised me when I was rewatching it this week because the song appeared both in this and another thing that I watched to the beginning of this week as the song "Unwritten" appears both in this and the "Anyone But You" romantic comedy that came out last Christmas.
Which one?
Anyone but the which song?
Yeah,
Or
yeah. Which
it's called Unwritten.
okay. And it came out
So
in what movie? Sorry.
so it was both in this and a romantic comedy that called Anyone But You of which
Oh yeah, yeah.
I watched for the first time I'm earlier this week. It felt like a really funny coincidence.
Yeah.
It was in both all these two things I watched in the same week. Which if I haven't seen anyone but you, if you like romantic comedies, if you like wholesome movies, and if you like very raunchy movies, you'll really enjoy that.
Okay, fair enough.
It's
I've
a
heard good things.
it's so much fun. And honestly made me fall in love with the lead actress in it of Sydney Sweeney.
Yeah, Sydney Sweeney. I mean, I knew that this was like her it girl moment movie that came out after her role in not Madam Web, but her role in Euphoria. So I knew that she had made a big splash last year, or the last 3 years. I think Euphoria's been on a while. The song that jumped out at me from the soundtrack of this movie was the He-Man remix of
Oh, it was
I
great.
don't even know what the hell the original song, but it's like they threw in it went with the original song first, and then they threw the He-Man remix as soon as the action sequence started with the van
It
and
was
with the
great.
truck. And the fact that, oh my god, when Donatello was complaining at the beginning that he was like, how did I end up with the big stick? And
Yeah,
then they
yeah,
have
it's
to use
great.
the stick to stop the brake pad. Like, that was so fucking funny. That was
Oh
really a
yeah.
great,
I
just so good.
and yeah, I was like with every song in this, I was singing along just like the
Yeah.
characters. It was great.
It was really
Oh,
good. Movie's great, man.
well, oh, that's I think that's all for us to say about this. Is there anything you'd like to say before I end this off?
This movie is sadly underrated. It was underviewed because of, I think, the strikes, and I can't wait for them to do more. I'm so glad to hear
Oh,
they're
yeah.
doing both a show and a movie.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on Keith. I always enjoy having you come on.
No problem, man. This is great. This is a blast.
So, all right, and thank you everyone for listening. If you like this gamma analysis, please give a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or a 5-star rating on Spotify. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the episodes. Please let me know. And if you'd like to listen to more from me, please subscribe. Many more gamma analysis from me coming, so keep on the lookout. This again is your host, Smash Ray John, signing off.